Hello folks, welcome along to another tactics video here on FIFA 22. My name's Ash, you'll know me as Brom18. This is a series where I'll show you how to recreate real systems and put them into the game. Now, it's not a promise that you will win every game, but it is a promise that this system will be recreated as accurately and as lifelike as possible compared to its real life counterparts. Welcome if you're new here. Please do hit the subscribe button and ring the bell as well so you get notifications every time I upload the video. Today we are talking about Stefano Pioli's AC Milan tactics. Really excited to get into this one. Had a whole lot of fun playing with it. So before we do get into it, just a quick mention, this video is brought to you by my Patreon. Get access to my FIFA 22 and PES 2021 custom tactics packages where I give you tactics rankings, pros and cons, suitable traits and attributes for each player, suitable teams to play off, overall thoughts, and every tactic that we cover on the channel goes into a tactics rankings table as well that you can get access to. Really good, lots of perks. You get access to my Discord server, behind the scenes videos, early access to a lot of videos. There's a whole range of perks. Go and check that out. The link to that is in the description and you will not be disappointed. On that note, let's get into the system. So first things first, let's talk about the squad itself before we go into the tactics and the instructions. What I'm going to do is on top of this base team that we've got here, I'm also going to show you how it changes should we bring Rebic up front, because what we've noticed is Ibrahimovic and Giroud have had a couple of injury problems, particularly at the start of the season, and then Rebic would then play up front. I'm going to show you how that role changes as well with him up front, and also how the tactic changes when they are going a little bit more attacking, trying to push for a goal, and also slightly more defensive as well. So, with the actual formation itself, it is a 4-2-3-1, and in terms of formation changes, you actually don't need to change anything. Just go for the basic 4-2-3-1 wide and stick with it as it is. Now, what we do often in these videos is I will change the right and left midfielders to wingers to try and get into more advanced areas. In this case, you don't actually need to do that, because what you're trying to replicate is how you'll find the likes of Rebic, Leao, Salamakers, etc. picking the ball up deeper. They want them in deeper positions and then they drive at them using their pace, their power, that movement. And that's really how they hit teams. You've got a slightly more counter-attacking system, not completely. There's a bit of a versatility in this system, and that's working really well for them. They've got a versatile team. We can go into that actually a bit more now, looking at the tactics. So let's talk about that. First things first, with defensive style, pressure on heavy touch. Very important. What you're finding is they're not pressing all the time, but neither are they dropping off all the time. They will sometimes drop off, they bed in, look to regain their shape, and then sometimes what they'll do is they'll either sometimes counter press, in which case you can use the down and then left button on the D-pad to instigate a team press, or they will press you when, say, as it says there, heavy touch, loose ball, the opposition really sort of playing themselves into trouble, then they'll look to press, and it's usually someone like the centre forward, Giroud, Ibrahimovic, Rebic, looking to instigate that press. Then the team will go up with them. So it's very versatile, and we're going to keep coming back to that word a lot, because that is what the system is. It's extremely important. With the defensive width, it's on 28. You're going to get them nice and narrow. We didn't go too deep, but I wanted to get a little bit of leeway in terms of the width, so we went as high as possible before it become if we move up here, you'll see then it becomes more balanced. We go to 28 to try and get it as high as possible, and then they just spread out a little bit more, so you can get out to the crosses, try and stop those balls coming in, as well as really being compact and narrowing down any sort of space in the central areas. With the depth, now this is very important, this is on 60. Now this will change depending on the attacking and defensive tactics. We're going to come on to them at the end of the video. It's on 60, it's a mid block at 60, but it's a higher mid block compared to if it was on say 40, when you're going to notice there all of a sudden they're dropping off a little bit more. You want this on 60. It's going to help with doing a little bit of both, again being pragmatic, because there is an element of pragmatism in this system, and that's what Pioli does so well, particularly with this AC Milan side, is that it's going to help you try and combat balls being played in behind, but also you can still instigate a press, and that's why you've really got this on a high mid block, because you still want a little bit of emphasis on a press when you need to. So offensively, first off, slow build up. Now this is more to do with not so much the speed of which they attack, but more to do with trying to get players coming to shorter areas, really trying to get them to support. In the first half, the defensive half of the pitch, you're going to find them, they'll look to play out from the back at goal kicks, they'll look to play it short into one of the centre backs from the box, work their way up from there. But then, when they get into the attacking half, there's more of an emphasis on runs. Also, you want an emphasis on the counter-attack as well. There is, again, that switch, that variety between counter-attacking and then also trying to play through the thirds. Again, a lot of versatility between the personnel here and how the players can play. So, for example, with forward runs, you've got more of that counter-attacking emphasis, but you've also trying to get the best out of the players. You've got pacey players like Rebic, like Leao, Salamakers, etc., utilising that power, that pace, all of those runs and all of that movement. On to width, up to 70, and this is going to push the players very, very wide. Now, the fact that you've got 3 central midfielders, you know, you've got all that sort of thing, the striker coming in, showing for it as well, means there's still going to be a bit of an emphasis on that central areas, but generally they want to get the ball out wide because they like to put a lot of crosses into the box. Also, they like to stretch the opposition, and what this does is it's going to create more space for the runners, the likes of Leao and Rebic, etc., to utilise that space. That's what they're always trying to do. You've also got the 2 fullbacks who are overlapping a lot. Again, pacey, lots of movement, lots of energy. It all plays into that. So again, it's part of the bigger picture that's really working out so well for them. Players in the box is up to 8, which is mean you're going to get 4 players in the box. Again, talking about stretching the pitch, this plays into that because you find they put a lot of crosses into the box. Now, they don't as much when, say, Rebic is playing up front, but when it's someone like Giroud, Ibrahimovic, you've got that target man. You're going to have that. Then you'll have the wingers, Leao, Rebic coming in, and then also Kessié as well. He's that real box-to-box, all-rounded central midfielder. We'll come on to that more in the player instructions. But again, you're going to have roughly 4 players in the box. Finally, with the corners and free kicks, both of these are up to 4. Again, they like to overload the box as much as possible in sort of a basic sense. You know, there's a lot of players there who are physically sort of superior and demanding, the likes of Ibrahimovic or Giroud. You've got Rebic and Leao in the attacking phases. You also got the likes of Romagnoli, Kjaer, Tomori, etc. Kessié in there as well. You know, there's a lot of players who can possess and provide a threat in those corner and set piece situations. So both of these are up to 4. Next up then, we are on to the player instructions. Starting off with the keeper, Mike Maignan in this case. Now, he's injured in real life as of recording this, but the role will stay the same. So saving on crosses comes to crosses. This is more to relieve the pressure off you in a FIFA and gameplay sense. What it is going to do is you know, relieve that pressure by him, you know, sort of taking responsibility in more crossing situations. He's going to come out more, he's going to claim it. Keepers are well protected on this game, so there is an element of, you know, trying to play that to your advantage. With saving outside the box, however, it's unbalanced. Rarely do you see him come out of his box too much, and with it being more of a mid-block in this case, there is less likelihood of him needing to do that. So in this case, it's unbalanced, and it's going to be a little bit more of a rare occasion when he does come out. In terms of the 2 centre-backs, the only thing you need to change is with Tomori. Tomori, what you'll find is he often likes to step out more, and he can do this because he's got a very good high physical upside. He's very pacey, he's quite agile, particularly for a centre-back. You know, they allow him to do this, to try and play on the front foot, to win the ball back quicker. So what you try and do here is change it to aggressive interceptions. You hope that he'll step out more. You don't want to change it to step up because it's going to get him really drifting out a little bit too much. You don't want to leave Kjaer on his own. So aggressive interceptions is the best way to replicate this. Now, should you be playing, say, Romagnoli and Kjaer, if you're playing with this system, then you can change this back to normal because, of course, Romagnoli a little bit slower than Tomori, not quite got that physical upside. Then you can change that back to normal. But in order to replicate Tomori's role, you can change this to aggressive and try and get him stepping out more. The 2 fullbacks next, both of these are on the same roles other than the run type. So let's talk about Hernandez first. Very much join the attack and overlap. We know what we're going to get from him. This guy's so pacey, a lot of energy as well. You know, gets involved a lot. He's a big part of how they attack and often plays a role in their attacks as well. So join the attack and overlap for him. But with Calabria, you've still got him on join the attack, but this time his run type is inverted. You often find him coming into more central areas. He's in fact scored a couple of goals this season as a result of that, or they've scored a couple of goals as a result of that. What happens, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, is that Salamakers will then stay wide and he'll provide the width on that side. He's not as much of a goal threat compared to someone like Rebic, who they want angling his runs, getting into the central areas more. So Salamakers is there as more of a crossing and wide threat, getting onto the touchline. We'll talk about that more. But as a result, to complement that, Calabria will then invert and provide that sort of central, more passing option. Next up then, onto the defensive midfielders. Two different roles. In this case, we've got Tonali and Kessié. The roles generally stay the same compared to if you've got someone like Benacer in there as well, as opposed to Tonali, etc. So with Tonali, you've got slightly more of a deeper lying playmaker, I guess. That's not the best way to describe his role, but it's a little bit closer to that compared to Kessié, who is more of a box-to-box man. With Tonali, cut passing lanes first things first. Try and lock off. They don't really go man-to-man. Very much more of an Italian thing in recent years, slightly more zonal. Attacking support is stay back while attacking. What he is he's the possessional pivot, along with someone like Brahim Diaz, but he does it in more of a deeper role. But where it's most important is positioning freedom, which we're going to talk about very, very shortly. With defensive position, it's cover centre. What you need to do is, if you find that you want him to come out wide and cover for, say, Calabria and Salamakers, who have gone forward and attacked and committed, and the opposition hitting you on the counter attack, what you do in that case is you manually drag him out. You don't want him coming out normally. The only time we really have these on cover wing is, say, if there's one defensive midfielder and then two central midfielders ahead of him. In that case, then they do. But in this case, with the defensive midfielders being the last on the line before it reaches a defence, you don't want them isolated. You have them on cover centre, just bring him out manually. Finally though, with positioning freedom, it's drift wide. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to recreate how Tonali plays. And what he does often is, when they're playing out from the back in particular, is he will often drift into these deeper pockets out on the right or out on the left, usually out on the right, because you'll find that the fullbacks, Calabria and Hernandez, will go up further and provide a slightly higher option, trying to really push the opposition wingers back to allow them to play it out from the back more easier. As a result, to fill in for that, Tonali often drops into those half-wide areas to pick up the ball and show for an option. Now, it doesn't recreate that perfectly because of the fact it's FIFA. But compared to free roam, you'll find him all over the place. You don't want that. You just want him drifting into those wide areas, particularly on the right-hand side. That's what you're looking to do. So we have it on drift wide, trying to get him, into those areas more. With Kessié, however, there are slightly different options. Cut passing lanes is the same, as is cover centre. With positioning freedom, it's stick to position. You don't need him dropping out on the other side, coming into the side areas. That's not what he does. He provides that central figure in more ways than one. With attacking support, it's on get forward. We've already spoken about it. I've mentioned it a couple of times. He's the box-to-box man. That's what he does so well. He's got that incredible sort of physical attributes, and that's what he does. His stamina will just allow him to go all game. We see him as he's often a goal threat as well. Scores a lot of goals for AC Milan. Yes, some of which are penalties. But again, he's always that goal threat, looking to get into the box. So this is get forward. And again, as we've spoken about earlier, he'll provide extra threat in the box in crossing situations as well. So let's talk about the front three then. First things first, I think we'll start off with the wingers actually. So we've obviously got two different roles, as we've spoken about already. With Rebic in this case, and it's the same with Rafael Leao if you've got him on the left as well. The role is the same. Come back on defence. So you've got them tracking back, making sure they're tracking any opposition, usually fullbacks or wingbacks. Chance creation is cut inside. We spoke about earlier with Hernandez how we want him angling his runs, getting closer to the striker. Again, he's a goal threat as well. You'll find him really doing a lot of his work in and around the box, and part of that is also with his support runs as well, which is getting behind. Now, any of you who've been glancing at the gameplay will see he has an absolute field day. He ends up scoring a hat-trick. Absolutely brilliant. We do, of course, move him up front in the second half as I'll show you his different roles, which we'll talk about later. But again, getting into those positions, that's what you want from him. And the same with support and crosses as well. is getting to the box or the cross for that same reason. However, with Salamanca's, it's a little bit different. You've still got him on comeback on defence to track him, to track the wing backs. You got him on support on crosses, getting into the box of crosses, and also the same with support runs as well. But with chance creation, stay wide. As we spoke about, he's going to create more width. He's going to get onto the touchline, and you'll find a lot of space for him in doing so, because then they've got a Mark Calabria who's getting forward and inverting his runs a little bit more. Again, you've also got to remember that with Tonali, for example, staying back on that side, it will change the complexion of the attack and of the shape on that side. So with him getting there, he'll be in a little bit more space. With Brahim Diaz in the central areas now, we've got him on comeback on defence, again, tracking back. Now his support on crosses is balanced. Occasionally he will drift in, but more often than not you find he won't, because what happens is you've got Kessié committing, you've probably got the two wingers committing into the box, and also you'll have the striker in there as well. He's going to provide that more advanced pivot. We spoke about how Tonali's that deeper pivot. He's a more advanced pivot. Should he come to the edge of the area, he's the one showing for the ball, ready to recycle it in the attacking third again. Plus, you know, he's like, what, 5'6", 5'7", you know, not the biggest aerial threat, so you don't really need him trying to offer that option in that situation. With positioning freedom, it's on free roam, and what this really does is it allows him to not only pick up the ball from deep, because that's what they'll do. Sometimes they'll drop off, pick it up deeper, try and get the attack going, and then he can feed through people running in behind, such as the wingers, for example. But it's also going to allow him to drift from side to side into that space as well, just trying to pick up pockets in those advanced areas. It's very important that we do this, because otherwise, a lot of the time you find him a little bit stagnant, and that's not really what we're looking for from that attacking midfielder. Particularly when you've got a target man as well, you need him providing more of the movement. So then, let's talk about the front man, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. First things first, support runs is balanced. Didn't really see much need to mess with this, to be honest. With defensive support, he's on stay forward to make sure he's that out ball. You don't want him tracking back. Now with attacking runs, he's on target man, and what he's going to do so well is he's going to show for the ball back into his opponent, and then you've got these runners, the likes of the wingers as well, and Kessié is that box-to-box man playing off him, and he allows you to then play through them. So let's talk now about how this changes depending on the personnel. So we spoke earlier about the fact that Giroud and Ibrahimovic have had some slight injury issues, in which case it would often be Ante Rebic up front, in which case you would then find someone like Leao coming into the midfield. We've also got someone like Krunic as well. How does it work when, say for example, Krunic is in for Brahim Diaz, who has also had a little bit of injury issues as well? Well, in that case, first things first, with the wingers, you don't need to change that. That will work absolutely fine. The only thing you will need to change in terms of Salamanca's is what you do then is you have him on cut inside. Now we're going to speak about why that happens in a moment. So he's on cut inside, still on getting behind. With Calabria, as a result of that, you want him on overlap, because obviously now that Salamanca is getting to the central areas, it will nullify Calabria a bit. So this time, him and Hernandez are going to be the ones creating the most width. With Rebic, as a result, now obviously he can't play as that target man so much. What he does is you have him on getting behind, but then with support runs, is drift wide. And what this does is it then creates a lot of movement between the front three. There's a lot of interchanging. He'll come out wide sometimes. Leao's coming into more central areas. Maybe Salamanca's or another winger then doing the same thing. And what it's doing is it's really messing with the opposition's marking, their scheme. You know, what do? Do they track? Do they go man to man? Do they try and fill out zonally? How do they deal with that? So as a result, you're providing a lot more movement. Now, naturally, it does mean that crossing situations do become a little bit more challenging without the target man, but the principles do really stay the same. As with Krunic, you'll obviously find a little bit of a different option. This time, you want him on getting to the box for the cross. As a result of that, someone like Salamanca's will then stay on the edge of the box to make sure that you've still got him filling in for the fact. Because obviously Krunic is someone who's a little bit more physically able in terms of those crossing situations than someone like Diaz. Now, as a result, because you've got a lot more movement from the front three, you can also have him on stick to position as well. He's not someone who's going to be drifting around a lot more. He's more there as just an extra body, really to take up those spaces. We've already spoken about someone like Romagnoli being in as well, just to see visually for you guys. Just take him off aggressive interceptions if you've got him in instead of Tomori. Same with Kiara as well. You know, with any of these two in, just keep them on normal interceptions. So then, let's talk about the tactics. Let me show you what happens when they're going a bit more attacking, they're chasing the game, and also a little bit more defensive as well. So first things first, with the attacking, talk about the tactics here. This time you'll find that the depth has been moved up. It was on 60, now it's on 90. Of course, they're pushing for the equaliser, but the defensive style stays on pressure on heavy touch because the principles are still the same in terms of how they approach it. Now, in terms of team press, you can also instigate it as well, as we spoke about earlier. You'll probably do that to more effect. So down and then left on the D-pad will instigate that team press for a few seconds. You want to do that more on top of that. In terms of offensively, slow build up forward runs do stay the same. The width goes up to 80. Again, trying to get it out wide more. You generally find them putting more and more crosses into the box as Milan get a little bit more desperate, trying to push for either an equaliser or a winner. Again, it's just what they do. It's kind of reverting to type. And as a result, the players in the box then goes up to all the way up to max. You've got this on 10. You've got a lot of players just storming into the box, finding any means necessary in order to support that crossing situations. And with corners and free kicks, these go up to 5 as well. Again, really going for broke, trying to push for that goal. So how does it work defensively then when they're trying to be even more pragmatic than what they already are? So they don't go too bad. It will still be a mid-block, but this time you move this down to 40. Again, like I say, still a mid-block, but a little, well, quite a bit lower than the 60 actually. And what you'll find as a result, again, just makes it harder for the opposition to play in behind you. Now, naturally, they do get a little bit more of the ball. It's easier for them to play out from the back. The defensive style stays the same, so you've still got an air of activity. You're not being totally passive. The width goes narrow as well, just again reverting to type, not too much more narrow, but it is down to 20. The width stays the same, but then players in the box move this down to 6, then you've got just 3 rather than 4. Usually you'll tend to find someone like Kessié not getting into the box as a result, so you can change him to something more like balanced or even stay back while attacking as well. And with corners and free kicks, move both of these down to 3, and then again you've got a couple more players this time staying back from those set piece situations. Right then, that is just about it then for this tactic, one that I've really enjoyed. You can get an even better and bigger deep dive on it, as well as all of my thoughts and the rankings and the ratings on it as well, if you check out my Patreon and check out the FIFA 22 tactics package available to all chairman level patrons. If you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to the channel, leave a like, check out my Borussia Dortmund Realistic Career Mode series currently ongoing. I think all of you guys watching this will really enjoy that. On top of that, have a look at all the links in the description, link to my Twitter, give me a follow on there, links to my second channel, we've got Football Manager 2022 videos on there, go and subscribe to that, as well as affiliate links where you can get access to all of my stuff, my gear, my equipment, gaming PC parts, all that stuff. Gives the channel a little kickback, great way to support the channel, but you don't have to pay any more. On that note, we're going to finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.